I'm Laurie Cardoza-Moore, and this is Focus on Israel. Is the Sabbath just a day for Jews? Should a Christian observe the Saturday Sabbath? Did Jesus' followers continue worshiping on Saturday after the resurrection, or did they mysteriously switch to Sunday? On an earlier program, we looked at the basic principles of the Sabbath. Today, we'll go deeper into this biblical truth. Hello, and thank you for joining me today on Focus on Israel. My name is Laurie Cardoza-Moore, a wife and proud mother of 5 wonderful children. Like most Americans, I began to ask a lot of questions about what happened to our country following 9/11. As I read and talked to experts, the issues of radical Islam and the attacks on America and Israel became extremely personal to me. In response, I founded Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating and sharing the message of Christian biblical responsibility to the people and land of Israel against the rise of a new anti-Semitism. In this series, Focus on Israel, I wanted to share with you what I've learned through my research and meetings with experts in their respective fields. The mission of this series and PJTN is to educate and equip you so that you can share this information with your family and friends. We'll present information you'll not see in the mainstream media. Today, it's imperative that we reach Christians around the world with our message to stand against the growing threat of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel propaganda. After studying the scriptures, I realized that God had not forsaken his covenant with his people, Israel. Unfortunately, there is a growing trend in Christianity to spread an age-old false doctrine and tradition called replacement theology. This heretical doctrine suggests that because the Jews denied Christ, the covenant promises given to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and their descendants now belong to the church. That is why during the Holocaust, many Christians turned a blind eye to the Nazi death camps. Many felt justified in their passive and active involvement because they believed the Jews were the Christ killers. For this reason, we must learn and spread the truth. It is so very important that at this critical time in history, we must turn our focus on Israel. Today, we're going to be going deeper into exactly what is the Sabbath and what does it mean for believers in Christ. To me, it's perhaps one of the most interesting aspects of not only the Holy Bible, but also the history of mankind in Christianity. And it's all summed up in a single day, the Sabbath. It was first mentioned the day after the first man, Adam, was created. God set apart the 7th day of the week from the other 6. It is so very important that God made it one of his 10 commandments, stating, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it." Its importance is significant, as it is the 4th commandment listed above murder, adultery, and stealing. So why is it not more widely observed today? Why and who changed the Christian day of rest on Saturday to the primary day of worship on Sunday? Rabbi Saul Strasberg of Shereth Israel in Nashville recently gave me some insight into the holiness and importance of the Sabbath day. Rabbi Strasberg received his ordination from Yeshivat Hovevai Torah, a seminary dedicated to open orthodoxy under the leadership of Rabbi Avi Weiss. Rabbi Strasberg completed rabbinic internships at the National Synagogue in Washington, D.C., and Beth David Synagogue in Hartford, Connecticut.
The Sabbath is the cornerstone of the Jewish faith. It comes into this story at the very beginning on the seventh day, when we learn that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. So the Sabbath is our way of testifying to that belief, that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. And Jews are very quick to tell you that more than the Jews have kept the Sabbath has kept the Jews. It's the one day a week that we look forward to for 6 days. There are people who rest so they can have a great week. We have a great week so that we can rest. And the Sabbath begins 18 minutes before sunset, Friday evening. The family prepares, showers, cleans the home, cooks, all that stuff. We have to prepare for the important things in life. And the Sabbath is ushered in with the lighting of the candles, the Sabbath candles by the mother or the women of the home. Go to synagogue, we come home, we have a wonderful meal, we catch up. And like one of my students says, the Sabbath creates real presence, not with a T, but with a C. The Sabbath is a day when we're present in God's world. We learn to appreciate what we have and who we have and where we are. And Saturday is just a wonderful day, Shabbat, of spending time in synagogue, of praying, of studying, of real soulful rest and spiritual rejuvenation. It's important that people realize that the kind of rest we have in the Sabbath is the way that God rested from creation. For example, what's the first thing God created? Light. So we don't create light on the Sabbath. We don't turn lights on, we don't turn lights off. Creative rest is different than the American concept of rest, where you sit back on the couch and you drink a beer and you watch a football game. Our rest is a thoughtful rest. It's a very, very calculated rest. And these are things that we do every single week as little children through our adulthood. And it's the kind of rest that really allows us to lead meaningful lives and to be thoughtful about how our week's going to be. The vignette is, we meet with Christian clergy, the Jewish clergy and Christian clergy. And one day, Christian clergy came to our meeting and said, "Rabbi, I saw you on the Saturday pushing your kids in a stroller from the synagogue home. And I was so envious of the fact that you really get a Sabbath." He was saying to himself, on my Sunday, I work because I'm a clergy. And I was saying, well, I'm a clergy too, but I keep the Sabbath. And not a week goes by when I don't get a phone call from Christians wanting to know more about the Sabbath, Shabbat. Not only, the day of the week, but how we do it. I get calls from clergy and from Christians, from parishioners, wanting to know why we do certain things, what we do. So you don't carry a wallet, you don't carry, how do you get into your house? There is a genuine, authentic interest in the unadulterated Shabbat. People want to know, and I'm not sure if this ever happened in history before, and I'm not sure where it's going to lead to, but it's very exciting to know that people in the world are opening their eyes and understanding how important and how incredibly wonderful the gift of Shabbat is.
This month marks the 70th anniversary of the historic Declaration of the State of Israel. God's sovereign hand can be seen all over this land. Included in the celebrations is the opening of the American Embassy right here in Jerusalem. In honor of this celebration, PJTN is offering a special 70th anniversary package, which includes a captivating new book and an award-winning DVD. Israel Rising is a unique visual story of Israel's miraculous journey from unforgiving desert to thriving nation. Thousands of years ago, the prophet Ezekiel foretold a future time in which the arid land of Israel would come alive for its people. Now this breathtaking book documents the fulfillment of this vision, as rarely seen photographs from the 1880s to the 1940s are juxtaposed with recent photos of the same locations. This book will inspire and captivate you as it illuminates Israel's foretold awakening in a new and unforgettable way. In addition, you'll receive the award-winning documentary, Israel Indivisible: The Case for the Ancient Homeland. This inspiring film examines the many political twists and turns that make Israel the world's most controversial nation. From Abraham and the Promise to the issues facing the Jewish state today, the film examines the historical, archaeological, legal, and biblical foundations for the modern state of Israel. This is a limited time offer for these two remarkable resources for just a one-time gift of $70 today. Your generous donation will help ensure that PJTN stays on the front lines and in the headlines of all the important issues facing Israel and our Jewish brethren. So please go to pjtn.org today. From studying history, it's very clear that what starts with the Jews never ends only with the Jews. We must strongly stand against any anti-Semitic trends, for if not stopped, they'll cause harm to all of us, and we'll witness the downfall of our Judeo-Christian Western culture. Today, many people say there's no longer a need for a Jewish state, that Jews around the world no longer need a place of refuge. But anyone who has heard recent statistics about the worldwide rise in anti-Semitism would never make such a claim. The reality is that neo-Nazi groups and Nazi sympathizers are increasing around the world. Surveys show that over 1 billion people in the world harbor anti-Semitic attitudes. Close to 50% believe that Jews have too much power in the business world, and 2/3 of the world's population has never heard of the Holocaust or believe the historic accounts of it are inaccurate. Don't let yourself be manipulated by evil people with a wicked agenda. When the self-serving villains are in control, good people from all religions suffer. Muslims, Christians, and all people of conscience should stand proudly and show respect for a country that gives so much to the world in so many ways. Do your part, do your research, and do what you can to make a difference. Because what happens in Israel does affect us all. This is not just a Jewish or just an Israeli problem. This is a problem for all humanity, for each and every one of us who believe in freedom and human rights. Learn more about what you can do at pjtn.org. Next up, we'd like to play you an excerpt from a fantastic 5-part television documentary called The Seventh Day: Revelations from the Lost Pages of History, hosted by award-winning actor Hal Holbrook. It powerfully chronicles how the Sabbath day of the Bible was observed, fought for, and tragically discarded by Christians as a non-binding Jewish tradition.
Originally established as the pivot point of the weekly cycle, the seventh day stood for thousands of years as the seal of the Creator's power and authority. The 10 Commandments, bedrock principles for human life, elevated the seventh-day Sabbath to the level of divine decree. During the lifetime of Jesus Christ, contention and debate raged over the issue of proper Sabbath keeping.
The Jewish way of Sabbath keeping was very legalistic. You couldn't move, you couldn't do anything.
By healing the man with the withered hand, Jesus showed the true spirit of the Sabbath. He rejected the rabbis' rules. He kept the Sabbath as taught in the ancient Hebrew scriptures.
Jesus did not break the Sabbath of the 10 Commandments. What he did was to defy human laws and traditions.
So where and when did Christians first begin to observe an alternate day of worship?
The first law requiring people to celebrate on Sunday and rest on Sunday was a law promulgated by the Emperor Constantine in the year 321.
In spite of the popularity of sun worship and the Sunday laws of emperors, many Christians continued to worship on the seventh-day Sabbath. In fact, Christian churches that abandoned the Sabbath were in the minority. The history of the early Christian centuries reveals the definite anti-seventh-day Sabbath, pro-Sunday movement. And church documents unmistakably identify the religious establishment at Rome as its nerve center. The Roman drive to replace the seventh-day Sabbath with Sunday got a big boost back in 321 AD. That's the year Constantine ordered state-authorized Sunday observance. Oddly enough, in spite of his professed Christianity, there was very little Christian about his first Sunday law. In fact, it sounds a lot like a call to pagan sun worship.
On the venerable day of the sun, let the magistrates and people residing in cities rest, and let all workshops be closed.
With a sympathetic emperor on the throne, the leaders of the Roman Church gained power and influence. In their councils, they took bold steps to enforce Sunday observance and to urge desecration of the biblical Sabbath. Some of their actions took on a definite anti-Jewish flavor.
Christians must not Judaize by resting on the Sabbath, but must work on that day, rather honoring the Lord's Day, Sunday, and if they can, resting then as Christians. But if any shall be found to be Judaizers, let them be anathema from Christ.
These pronouncements against Judaizers referred to those who, like the Jews, refused to work on the Sabbath. Christians who did this were to be excommunicated, kicked out of the church. This extreme position against the Sabbath, combined with a strong pro-Sunday stance, became a pillar of Roman Catholic teaching. The Sabbath to Sunday change became a mark of Roman Catholic or papal authority. In 602, Pope Gregory identified Sabbath keepers with the Antichrist. He called them Judaizers because of their determination to observe the seventh day as a day for rest and worship.
It has come to my ears that certain men of perverse spirit have sown among you some things that are wrong and opposed to the holy faith, so as to forbid any work done on the Sabbath day.
Christians in the Italian city of Milan dared to openly observe the Sabbath no matter what the leadership in Rome wanted.
The Church of Milan followed the churches of the East. It seems the Saturday was held in a fair esteem. They, the churches of the East, came together on the Sabbath day to worship Jesus Christ, the Lord of the Sabbath.
Over the centuries, the attempt to establish Sunday as a substitute for the biblical Sabbath was probably only mildly successful. But the campaign was really intensified with a move that threatened to drive a deep wedge between the eastern and western branches of Christianity. This move involved a direct assault on the very nature and purpose of Sabbath observance.
What was this direct assault? It was a rule forbidding Christians to eat on the seventh day. In other words, a Sabbath fast. This was an anti-Jewish idea that probably originated with Marcion, a heretic who was kicked out of the church back in the 2nd century.
Marcion wanted to discredit the Sabbath because it was an image of creation. For him, creation was an evil deed of an evil God, the God of the Old Testament. He distinguished the God of the Old Testament from the God of the New, the God of love. But the church rejected this because creation was a good deed, and the God of the Old Testament is the same with the God of the New. So he turned a celebratory day into a day of lament, and that was his intention. This is why he introduced the Sabbath fast.
In spite of its action against him, the church salvaged his fast idea and used it to make the seventh-day Sabbath unappealing.
It was the church in Rome that championed the fasting on Sabbath and the feasting on Sunday. In fact, in the 4th century, Pope Sylvester said that it was good to do this in contempt of the Jews.
In a single generation, young Christians grew up with a built-in dislike for the Sabbath, the day of fasting and gloom, and with a corresponding attraction to Sunday, the day of celebration and feasting. But even this particular anti-Sabbath strategy was only partly successful. Prominent church leaders opposed it. Hippolytus, a 3rd century bishop, felt it was a big mistake.
Even today, some order fasting on the Sabbath, of which Christ has not spoken, dishonoring even the gospel of Christ.
There is even a report that Augustine, one of the most influential of the Roman Church Fathers, came to the defense of church members who ignored the Sabbath fast.
The leaders in Rome were eventually successful in imposing the Sabbath fast on their followers in the Western world of Christianity. But the same could not be said for what happened in the East. Where the Orthodox influence was strongest, Eastern Christianity resisted this, and their views on the Sabbath were really quite different.
Sabbath fasting does not make any sense for the Orthodox, because the Sabbath is the day that marks two great events, the completion of creation and the completion of redemption. So Sabbath is a day of double celebration and could never be associated with fasting and lament.
The church-state establishment had the power to impose its will even by force of arms. It did not hesitate to use persecution and coercion against the dissenters. Then John Wycliffe came on the scene, and the Christian world would never be the same again.
Wycliffe was a man who was passionately in love with the Word of God and sought to make that Word of God known to the English people. He loved that Word of God to the point where he was willing to stand against the authorities of the church of his day, even at great loss to himself and personal risk.
For example, on the matter of the individual reading the Bible, the established church took the view that we ordinary laymen are too dumb to do that. It takes somebody with years of higher education to really be able to understand the Bible.
The hierarchy of the church very strongly opposed the Bible being available in the vernacular to the average layperson, because this would circumvent the role of the priest and would give a certain type of power to the laity to interpret the scripture for themselves.
John Wycliffe felt that the papal authority, first of all, had no foundation in Scripture, and secondly, he thought that it was very corrupt and had distorted the gospel and had added many human institutions, with the primary purpose of which seemed to be to raise money for Rome, and he objected to the general corruption of the whole papal system. And Wycliffe had the view that the Pope was doing the work of Antichrist.
By blazing away with tongue and pen, he made himself a rallying point for others of like mind. He was a charismatic man who attracted loyal followers and supporters.
The followers of John Wycliffe were known as Lollards. The Lollards were inspired by John Wycliffe to distribute the Bible to the ordinary people, the Bible in English. And they went about the countryside with their sandals and their russet gowns and their staffs and very little else, all over England.
Initially, the term Lollard was considered derisive and derogatory, and the word itself comes from the Dutch word lullen, which means to mumble, and was used to refer to them as mumblers or religious fanatics, too.
One of the questions of all time is the question of authority. In Wycliffe's day, there were two views. The church felt they had the authority because they were infallible and had been given that right by God. The Lollards, on the other hand, believed that ultimate authority was in God through the scriptures. Eventually, the Lollard movement turned underground and even pietistic. And what I mean by that they began to study the Bible in a more literalistic way. They sought to apply it to their hearts and their lives in a way that was most in agreement with what the text of Scripture said.
Some of the Lollards became Sabbatarians, believing that worship should take place on the seventh day according to the Scriptures. Really, the only information we have about the Lollards who were Sabbath keepers are the court records of their trials. For example, we have the story of one of these people, John Seigno, and he was brought to trial in 1402 for practicing his Sabbatarian beliefs, and he professed that he would continue to do so until someone could prove from Scripture that he was in error.
With this view of the sacred scriptures, it's not surprising that there were Sabbath keepers among those Lollards. They were forerunners of many who would rediscover the seventh-day Sabbath during the Protestant Reformation. If the supreme authority of the church could be maintained, the teachings of Scripture could lie unheeded and forgotten. But if the Bible came to be seen as the sacred source of doctrine and the legitimate guide for Christian practice, the power of the church and its traditions would be greatly diminished. And thanks to John Wycliffe, that is precisely what happened in the centuries leading up to the Protestant Reformation. As knowledge of the Bible increased, so did a revived understanding of God's plan for mankind as revealed in the Ten Commandments. And that, of course, impacts our story of the seventh day. With the availability of the Bible in the language of the common man, the stage was set for the rediscovery of the Bible's Sabbath.
To learn more, I highly recommend this very thorough 5-part documentary. I pray you'll look deeper at this ongoing misconception and see where it leads you. A change this big takes commitment, and it's a decision only you can make. We must remember that God doesn't hold us responsible for what we don't know, but He does hold us responsible for the knowledge we gain. That's our show for today, and I want you to know we appreciate hearing from you. Please send your comments and questions to comments@pjtn.org. The time to stand up is now. Be a leader in your community and in your church. One person can make a difference. Get involved with and support pro-Israel organizations such as PJTN. Call your senators, congressmen, the White House. Let your elected leaders hear from you. Visit our website to learn more. Sign up to receive action alerts and order our films to share with others. Please encourage your family and friends to tune in and watch. God bless you and thank you for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren and all Israel. We'll see you next time on Focus on Israel.
To support this program, send your tax-deductible gift to Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, P.O. Box 682711, Franklin, Tennessee 37068. You can also support PJTN online. Visit pjtn.org or call 1-877-873-9020.
Anti-Semitism has reached epic proportions, and Israel is now surrounded by nations who seek its destruction. For Israel to lose just one battle would mean losing everything. As Christians, it is our biblical responsibility to stand with our Jewish brethren and Israel. PJTN needs your help to reach more Christians with this urgent message. Please visit our website to become a member today and order our award-winning documentaries. You must decide that you won't be silent. Sign up now at pjtn.org. God bless you and thank you for your support and prayers.